Here.
Member Walter?
Here.
Member Neary?
Here.
Member Baszler?
Present.
Member Cornett? Here. Member Burns?
Here.
Member Lynn?
Here.
City Administrator Giffen?
Here.
City Attorney Edge?
Here.
All in attendance, that's wonderful. Now, if we stand, please, and have a moment of silence and do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We have a bit of a different agenda this evening after last month's re-jostling of the agenda. So first up would be the department heads report. So we'll start off, Tony, you're not frequently up here, so we'll go ahead and get to you.
Give everybody a copy of our monthly report from January. Gives all our total numbers for the month.
Everybody has a copy of that? Any questions for Mr. Baldwin?
Was it a busy month for you?
Not really. It's actually been interesting, some of the activity that's kind of died down a little bit. So that's good. Very good.
I'm going with police and fire, Chief Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. You guys should have received my report. Not a lot to add to it. January was a busy month for us. We're starting off just like we ended December. Squad is down right now. We're using a backup squad and working on getting that fixed. We are looking at our options as far as purchasing a new squad. Mr. Neary, you had questioned in the last fire board meeting about runs as far as falls, lift assists, things like that. In January, we had 20 falls, and 10 of those we actually transported. So we're going to start keeping a little track of that for you. We do have a fire board meeting coming up on the 3rd or the 19th. We're just doing our thing. So not a whole lot else to add to that. Any questions for me?
I want to commend both you and the police department. I know you had some difficult situations in the past couple of weeks.
We have.
And what I've heard, they were handled very professionally. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I'll pass that on to the guys. That was all them. So, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Can I go back to something real quick?
Of course.
Area check, is that high for this month? Seems like 297.
Well, it's going to kind of go up and down depending on, if the activity is there. Area checks tend to drop a little bit, but when the officers don't have much activity going on, they're going to be out, pulling on door handles more often.
Just see why.
And generally, most of your area checks are happening on, especially on the weekends, the evenings when places are closed.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Lyles, code enforcement.
Sir. Mayor, council, good evening. Just brief numbers for the monthly report that you all have already received. January was a little busier than usual for it being January. 20 citations were issued, 49 violations, and believe it or not, we had 1 grass invoice. There were 28 cases that were closed. I wrote 20 parking tags, towed 3 vehicles. Of those, 7 of the parking tags were for out-of-state vehicles residing in Kentucky. Just yearly numbers, January 1st through December 31st of 2019, there were 802 total letters that went out. 208 of those were citations, and 594 were either letters or grass invoices. And that's basically all I have. Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a
Yes, sir.
question for you. This is kind of a hypothetical, but how does code enforcement handle, let's say someone wanted their front yard to be a more natural long grass for the bees and ecosystems like that? Where does we draw the line between someone that has an unkept yard and someone that is leaving it wild?
That's probably a good question. It hasn't really
Set
arisen
answer.
yet.
Set
I've had
answers,
some
set
yards
answers.
that you would think would be hypothetical, but I looked at it as a junkyard and they looked at it as art. So
I can
just kind of have to, I'd probably handle it on a case-by-case basis, and if we get complaints, I'd probably have to maybe discuss it and go a little higher than me and see how we want to move forward. The ordinance and the IP, International Property Maintenance Code, doesn't really delve into those specifics, so we'll probably handle it on a case-by-case basis.
I also want to, sir, if I could, of course, commend administration and Officer Lyles. I came down Irvin Terrace tonight. I saw that building it's on its way down at 10th and Irvin and Belmont. Finally.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Yoder,
Thank you, Mayor.
Economic Development.
Updates on some of our new businesses. I mentioned Black Chicken a few weeks ago. They're finishing the last of their inspections. We should have an opening and a ribbon cutting scheduled with them soon. Ketchum Flooring is open. I think they're waiting for a little better weather. We should have done a ribbon cutting on Sunday, but so we'll do a ribbon cutting on there. Still working with several other businesses I expect to open up this spring. Nothing new to announce on that. The Main Street Board is working with Hickory Dickory Dock Vintage Candies to be hosting a winter carnival in the city parking lot in the 500 block of 6th Avenue on March 14th, 2020. So they've done this in previous years in the city of Newport. It's been very popular. They'll bring in some, I guess, buskers or some people that they brought to the fall festival. So they're mainly putting this on. They attended the Main Street Board meeting. We talked about it. And the Main Street Board moved to pay for it in a bouncy house to have that. So there's more to come later. We're going to talk to Dayton Baptist Church, see if we could use their parking lot on a Saturday. So that's that. There'll be a Main Street Board meeting on February 25th. This month at Unataza, as opposed to normally at Hometown Heroes. So we'll be at Unataza, so come get a coffee. Grants, I hope you all saw in the news or on Facebook yesterday. Governor Bashir gave the city of Dayton a $91,043 recreational trail program grant for us, for Sergeant Park. We've been working on this for 3 years, trying to get this funding, and I'm very excited about this. You gotta keep working on these things. We should hear back later this month on a grant we submitted with Greenworks Ohio River Valley to Amazon, requesting funds also to help out at Sergeant Park, so cross our fingers on that. And I need to say there's a vital resolution of tonight's agenda to move the Safe Routes to School Sidewalk project on Dayton Pike forward. This grant is vital in establishing a safe pedestrian connection from the base into Upper Dayton. I've been working on this for 3 years from the day I started, and many in council and the audience have spoken of the importance of this project, especially for the safety of Dayton's children. So, update on the Board of Architectural Review. We approved the plans to restore the moldings on the top of 501 through 507 6th Avenue. They were supposed to start on that a week or so ago. Haven't. I'm not quite sure. At our meeting, we also discussed plans for the Historic Preservation Awards to be handed out at the Northern Kentucky Preservation Ceremony in May for Historic Preservation Month. So many of the other river cities handed awards for that. We have not. We will be doing that. And we'll be having our Dayton Board of Architectural Review meeting next Tuesday, February 11th at 7 p.m. at Hometown Heroes, and anybody is invited. So thank you all. Any questions or comments?
Any questions for Mr. Yoder?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your report, sir. Mr. Lucas, I noticed you're in a crowd tonight. Do you have anything to report for the Public Works?
No, I'm just here
That's fine. How much salt did you use this month?
We brought in 50 ton and we've only used about 4 ton.
4 tons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't used 4 pounds. All right.
But we eliminated a lot of the water issues and ice on Belmont and Urban Terrace and places like that. It's helped out.
Thank you very much. For the mayor's report, I do, first of all, want to say it was a very exciting day yesterday, meeting with Governor Bashir, and we had a very great event for the city of Dayton, Kentucky, when we received $91,000 plus for Sergeant Park. I want to give a major thanks to our city staff, Mr. Giffen, Mr. Yoder, on working these things throughout. This is going to be huge. We're going to reactivate some green space that's not going to only add more green space for Dayton, but for the region as a whole. This is great. This is one of the things we fight for, and we're very grateful for the governor for giving us that money and for the work that you guys put behind us. So thank you very much. Second of all, I want to make sure that everyone understands that there will be a special election on the 25th of this month. This will be to fill Mr. Keene's seat in the House of Representatives. So all voting shall be happening at, they removed the school districts to make sure the kids could go to school that day. So the voting will be at First Baptist Church at 501 Dayton Avenue. So everyone shall be voting at that precinct. Make sure that you go to the right place to vote if you choose to vote that day. And of course, we always encourage voting. We are now moving along to the board appointments. Ms. Myers?
For planning and zoning, we have Sandy Trudgell and Anthony Cagle. I don't know if they still want to be on it.
Yeah, they still want to be on it,
Okay.
I imagine. Anthony, you're out there.
Yeah,
Still want to be on it?
if you would have me.
We love having you, man. You're the best.
Board of Adjustments Directory, Don Lynn. Board of Architectural Review, Emily Holtrup and Tracy Toodle. And Civic Club, Jennifer DeBrawler and Amy Klosterman. Housing Authority Board, Alberta Brusky. Main Street Board, Jay Banks and Brett Newspickle. Museum Board, Jane Hebel. Park Board of Commissioners, Amanda Bowman. Code Enforcement Board, Mike Lentz. And I don't have the Fire Department Board yet. So that's it so far.
All the board members, minus the fire board, have been made. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
I think Danny had first. So moved by Mr. Lynn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Volter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Passes. I'll move along to the approval of minutes from the January 7th council meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of January 7th council meeting?
I'll make that. Who's-
Ladies first. Motion was made by Ms. Cornett, the second by Member Neary. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any
Not
noes?
voting.
Mr. Volter abstained. Motion passes. Now we'll move along to ordinances. Orders. The first reading for ordinance 2020, number 1, amending chapter 154 by adding event facilities and child care center as a conditional use in the R1JJ zone. Ms. Myers?
City of Dayton, Kentucky Ordinance 2020 number 1, an ordinance amending chapter 154 of the Dayton Code of Ordinances, commonly referred to as the City of Dayton zoning ordinance, by adding event facilities and child care center as a conditional use in a residential 1R JJ zone. This ordinance amends chapter 154 of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinance by adding the event facilities and child care center as a conditional use in the R1 JJ zone. This ordinance further adds a definition for the event facilities and child care centers. The ordinance further makes additional changes to other R1 JJ conditional uses for clarity and purpose. The ordinance further adds a parking requirement for conditionally permitted uses.
That was the first reading. Second would be order number 2020, number 1R, authorizing the city attorney to initiate eminent domain proceedings to complete the sidewalk project. Ms. Myers?
City of Dayton, Kentucky, municipal order number 2021, a municipal order authorizing the city attorney to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire necessary easements to complete sidewalk project.
That order's been read. Do we have a motion to accept order number 20?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Before you proceed, I would like to recuse myself from any vote, decision, or discussion on the issue due to my relationship to Mr. Lenz.
Understood, sir. So, Mr. Volters recused himself, but we will need a motion to accept order number 2020, number 1R. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion.
Member Neer's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Do we have a discussion?
Mr. Mayor, you said discussion, has the problems been remedied up there? Or you're asking us to go into eminent domain, and I don't understand you how you go into eminent domain when we haven't fixed the problems up there yet. I think you're putting a cart before the horse. You better fix the problem up there before you go up there and get these citizens on a row about putting something on their property if you haven't fixed the problem.
Bill, if you, I'd like to take that one. Right now, the sidewalk project is the only viable option we have, a good first step to improve the stormwater management up in that area. Anything else that we're talking about, we talked about in January, that we may talk about later, isn't real funding. There's no funding for some of these things. The only real thing that we have is an actual grant that will help keep stormwater, some of that stormwater coming from the street onto these people's property away from it. So I view the topics separately. Mr. Lenz brought forward, his argument last meeting. It's not a city-owned pipe, so therefore we have no jurisdiction on it. He's just using this as an opportunity to delay the project. And as I said, there's kids that walk up and down this road every day. They deserve a sidewalk. We've been fighting for this for years. As Bob mentioned, there's people up here, there's people in the audience that have advocated for why we're not moving quicker. Well, this is a perfect example. We keep running into these obstacles at every turn. We're trying to get this thing through. So I understand his concern up there. I understand the neighbor's concern up there. It's not ideal. The place has had a stormwater problem for 100 years. It's in a bowl. But this is actual something concrete that we have that can help as a first step of the stormwater problem up there. Anything else is just hypothetical. We don't have funding for. So
My question
to delay this project based on someone's private problem, and it is a private problem the way that it's viewed right now, is ridiculous. If we don't move forward with this project tonight through eminent domain, Mr. Lenz doesn't sign the documents, the grant goes into default and we lose the money. What that means is we have to pay back all the money that we spent. $100,000 in design and right-of-way fees goes back. We also have to fund a park and a sidewalk in Jamestown Park. That is being paid for by this grant. The grant goes away. That's something we were federally mandated to do that we would no longer have the funding to do. So I understand their issue, but it's a separate issue. We're asking for eminent domain for parcel or a piece of their property along the road for a sidewalk. We're not taking their entire property, and this is for the safety and well-being of the community and the kids that walk there. It's been mentioned several times in the comprehensive plan coming up how important it is for connectivity and sidewalks. This is part of a longer plan to connect Dayton with Fort Thomas. And if we lose this, we lose 7-8 years worth of work. And we still have a lot of issues to figure out where we get the money to pay back the grant and to do some of the other things that we're federally mandated to do. So this is actually something viable that is real that could help the stormwater problem up there. Is it going to solve the whole problem? Probably not, but it's certainly going to help. And I think it's for the betterment of the community that we move forward. At this point, we've probably already lost construction for 2020, but hopefully this can get us somewhere back on track.
So you're telling me you're willing to spend $300,000 on a sidewalk when there's a water problem up there, and within 3 or 4, maybe 5 years, I'll go to sin in 5 years, that sidewalk's gonna break and it's gonna be over the hillside. That just don't make sense to me. I think we have to address this issue up there.
Bill, it's not, the issues that have been brought forward are private, and you can disagree with it all you want, but it is what it is, and there's nothing that I or you can do about that at this time. So, to make that issue about the sidewalk, it's, that private line is not related to the sidewalk. Like as I said, if anything, it could help address part of the stormwater problem. A lot of the stormwater that impacts those homes comes from the hillside across the street. A sidewalk and a curb will help divert that water away. This is real. Everything else that we've talked about, the estimates that I've gotten for other work, that's not realistic. That money doesn't exist. It's not allocated. So,
Let me just say this, Michael. There's a couple of teachers and people who work the schools down here. We teach our kids not to be bullies, and that's what we're being now. We're the big bad bullies on the block. And I am dead against eminent domain. I'm dead against, let me finish, please. That property up there, the city would never have that property, but they wouldn't have went to my mother-in-law and father-in-law and tried to do eminent domain right there. That's why you have a city garage up there. They took the 6.5 acres of land. All 90% of that land up there was my mother-in-law and father-in-law's, and they come out after her with eminent domain. You think I'm gonna let them, you do eminent domain tonight, you're crazy.
well, what you're denying is there's several kids that walk up and down this road, and they're walking without a sidewalk.
No,
This
what I'm
grant is
doing,
for safety.
what I'm
It's
doing,
from
I'm
safety
voting
from
my
the very-
conscience, Michael.
It's from
I'm
safety
voting
from
my
the very
conscience.
beginning, and that's what's the most important to me.
I'm voting my conscience, Michael.
I'll echo Mr. Giffen's comments on some of those concerns. And Bill, I do respect your concerns. The other day, Michael and I drove up Dayton Pike at 3:30, and you saw kids walking through mud up that hill. We have been working on this for years. This has come to a point where we are not going to get this to move forward. We are going to lose a lot of taxpayers' money if this does not move forward. The reason for this is to give these kids a safe route to school. These kids have got 20 pounds of books in their bags, and they're doing the things that we want them to do. We should not let them walk through mud. So this is important, and I appreciate your comments, Bill. I appreciate your comments, Michael.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
I own a property that also has some crazy water issues that aren't from my property. They come down the football field, they block up at Urban Terrace, and I get flooded out with 10 feet of water. It's my problem. Like, I realize that it's a private, like, I'm in the middle of some things. I mean, I could probably do some things to change it that might end up flooding my neighbors out. Like, I feel like I really understand the predicament that we're in. But, I mean, to block a whole project like this that would give you some sort of infrastructure, would give you curbs to help move water in different direction, at least gives us a start to start fixing the problem. I totally sympathize with anything you're going on up there. Like I said, I go through it every time we get those 100-year floods, just like you guys. But the way I see it, if we have eminent domain on that sidewalk, with your theory of that sidewalk getting wiped out in 5 years by rain, it would be the city's property. So at least that part of it would be off your shoulders. I know you have some stuff adjacent to that would still be an issue, but I still think it's a good start. I mean, by putting your foot down and stopping the whole project doesn't help you with the private case. Like, I would encourage you to work with SD1 in the city to apply for that grant where each of you guys pay a third. That's the way I was gonna handle the project with me putting in a retention pond on my property was, I mean, that's literally the best case scenario you could have. And to not follow those steps and block a project that's helping the kids and that we've been working on for 3 years, I don't know. That's just where I'm coming from. I totally sympathize with you, but I feel like with my vote, I have to vote for a project that's already halfway there to get finished. So I'm not trying to take anyone's land. We're taking a part of a sidewalk that you guys could have given us permission for anyway. So that's where I stand.
I agree with Bill, believe it or not, Bill. I hate eminent domain, I really do. But, and, you know, everybody wants to be on council. The hardest part about this job is telling people no. I mean, we always say it's for the citizens. No, our job is to protect the city as a whole. And sometimes you're gonna make people mad, even friends of yours. In a case like this, as everybody said, this project's been going on for so long. It also impacts the project for the sidewalk expansions in downtown on 6th Street. We can't do them without doing this. I don't care whose property it was, I would vote the same way to go eminent domain just to get this project done. And I do believe, looking at the topology down there, even if you fix that pipe, even if you got a huge grant to fix that pipe, you'd still have the same water problem occasionally with the rains that we had last year, which was like 4 inches in a couple of hours because of the topology of the land. It's not being caused by the storm drain up there. You've got 40 acres drain into that pipe, including the north side of Lincoln Road. My backyard drains down into Lincoln, into that pipe going underneath your property. That is a separate issue, and I'm hoping that we can come to some solution for that pipe issue. But as far as the sidewalk goes, I think it's too important to this city as a whole. I wish we didn't have to do an eminent domain. That's the only avenue we have, and as Michael said, it's probably going to delay the project another year because we've missed the bid season and we've missed the concrete pouring season. I apologize that I have to do that, but I'd have to vote for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments. Anybody else like to have any comments concerning this?
I only can echo what you said, and like I said, it was said, this project started right before we all got on council 6 years ago, and there's still nothing done. I remember Jeff coming to me and saying, when's this thing gonna get done? And Michael would say, hopefully next year. It's always hopefully next year, hopefully next year. Well, time's here, so I think it's time to get it done.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn, for your comments. Anybody else? Comments?
I do promise both of you that Jeff and I and Mayor Baker and Mr. Giffen, we've been in stormwater meetings and meeting with SD1 and everything else. I promise you that I will not put that problem aside.
Any other comments concerning ordinance 2020, number 1R? It's a motion made by Mr. Neary and a second by Mr. Baszler. I'd like to have a roll call vote. Ms. Myers.
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baszler?
Aye.
Member Cornett?
Aye.
Member Burns?
No, no, no.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Volter?
Not voting.
Member Volter's recusal. We have the ayes have it. 2020, number 1R passes. Moving from the ordinances orders down to the city administrator's report. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one handicap parking request, 503 3rd Avenue. The applicant does have what appears to be an existing off-street parking spot at one point, but what they've done with the property is they fenced it in, and there is a gate, but they planted so much vegetation and flowers in between, you can't get a car through, so they're not using it actively as a driveway and haven't for some time. So that being the case, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the request, and then we'll just keep an eye on it to make sure as time goes on that things don't change. But as of now, I think it would meet the intent of the ordinance. So we get a motion to approve that.
We'd like to approve the request for the handicap parking at 503 3rd.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Member Neary and second by Ms. Cornett. Do we have a all in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any recusals? All ayes have it. Anybody else, sir?
I'll just add, I did want to know that you all may know, but I've been talking with, just to kind of get back to the prior topic, with Mr. Lynn's since last summer about SD1's program, and to echo what Joe said from the beginning, I said if there's a possibility for the city to help in some way, you know, I'm certainly going to continue to pursue those avenues as well to help the situation. So.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ed, we move along to the city attorney's report.
Just let mayor and council know that we sent out 28 last warning letters for delinquent occupational payroll, rental taxes owed by businesses in the that have done work or have their business here in Dayton. So hopefully we'll have some success on thinning that number down and collecting the end of the 2019 taxes before the 2020 occupational payroll rental taxes are due on April 15th.
Any questions for our attorney?
I wanted to ask, I think I might have asked this before, but do we get all of the realtors who put signs up in our city in terms of occupational license? Tiffany, did we catch up? Okay.
Oh, yeah, we do that.
Okay.
I don't know how many of them we
Oh, that's
catch.
fine.
I usually don't catch the process till we find out who's left that hasn't been paying.
I just wondered if we did it. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Edge? Thank you for your report, sir. I will now open up the podium with our new schedule to audience. Ms. Cole, if you could please say your name and your address, please.
Jean Cole, 319 Irvin Terrace. This is about the special election that you mentioned. I think most of us got a postcard in the mail, and it just said your new voting place is, and it didn't say this is for a special election. It didn't clarify that at all. So I'm hoping Beth can get it on the tape here, or whoever's recording, to let people know that this is just for the one-time vote. And it is February 25th for replacement Dennis King. But then after that, the next election, you will go back to your original polling place. And I think they're supposed to be sending a letter to clarify that, because several people have complained that it was really confusing.
That's correct. A postcard should be coming out that clarifies that information.
Good. And I didn't hear, did I miss you talking about the ethics board? I might have just left it on my head. But I know Ben put me on that last year, so I wanted to make sure if I'm still on.
I don't think we had anything on the ethics board. I think everyone was good.
It's the easiest job in the world so far.
That's good. And I'm going to ask Mr. Yoder in the next coming weeks if we could please get some signage around City Hall and anywhere else that we can put it around the city that to let people know where their voting location is for this special election, just to make sure that if people want to vote, they know where to go.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Yoder. Anybody else like to have the podium? Mr. Cato. Name, address, you know the role.
R2 left. My name's Anthony Cato. I live at 1120 Fifth Avenue. I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Tonight on new business, you guys are considering a comprehensive plan. Along with myself, the other board members of Planning and Zoning, and several community volunteers. A lot of effort and passion was poured into this. Just to speak to the plan, it's very forward-thinking. It puts a lot of stuff on the forefront of now for tomorrow that we've never considered in plans before. And I just want to encourage you all to definitely embrace it and accept it and approve it. But more than that, I want you to encourage all council members to use it. You know, the hardest part about plans is they're not action, they're just a thought, you know, what do we expect and what we want. So as you guys move forward through this year, once this is approved and the years to come, you know, or just, you know, to the city administration, to the politicians, you know, make sure that with every decision you guys are making, it's tied back to this plan. And that way we are being proactive with what we're doing as we move forward. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I, for one, want to say thank you very much, Mr. Cato, for your work on the comprehensive plan and all the board members. It was long fought and well done, so we appreciate your work. Move forward.
Kathy Bolter at 3361 River Point Drive in Dayton. Just a couple of comments. Firstly, There was a little robust conversation on Facebook tonight about the park situation, be it Sergeant, the fencing not being down or whatever, and that is the quest in getting this new grant to have it accessible to the community. And it brought to mind a question. Now, I know this is, some things are hard to sitting on council, as I was there for 18 years, to think outside the box, but Gilliland Park has been encased with a fence like a prison or forever. And it really didn't impact me much until we were fixing the property at 214 Berry, right across the street from it, all summer long, all during the day. And I'd look over there wasn't a body in the park, not a body. And I thought, there's a huge neighborhood to the east of the park, and you don't see anybody out. And I thought, why is this fence here? Has anybody ever seen a community park with fencing surrounding it, and it's locked at night, of course? And I thought, if that could be open somehow on the Berry Street side, not even entirely, because I know there could be balls that are hit to the properties, but if you could access it from Berry Street, as that is supposed to be a leadway down to the riverfront eventually, it sure is tacky for one. And it just doesn't give a good appearance of a good, safe community. So I thought it might get more use if you all considered removing some of the fence or all of the fence to the east of it. So, I'm sorry, to the west side, so that the neighborhoods of Berry Street group could access it.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, it's just food for thought, you know. I spoke it with my favorite council member, but
Drive down?
oil and water.
You won't always agree.
I would imagine that Mr. Lucas and maybe Mr. Baldwin might have some.
Yeah, currently it's, go ahead, Rick.
There is a personnel gate on the Berry side. It's right there where St. Bernard's fence connects. We can start opening it. We've never opened it. It was just for.
The appearance of this huge chain link fence, like it's unsafe to me, like it's a neighborhood that's unsafe, it's fenced. Just.
That was mainly put in for softball and baseball.
Yeah.
That netting protects a lot of those little houses right there.
Happened 50 years ago, like some kids broke in and tore the toilets up. Well, that happened long ago, and we have cameras now, you know, so sometimes just think out of the box a little. As I get older, I do that. And another thing is, back to this issue on Dayton Pike and the eminent domain. I know it's not easy sitting there, and for years, I was on council when we got that grant, and I was so excited. And it was year after year after year. When's it coming in? When's it coming in? And especially moving up in that neighborhood now and seeing the kids walking up there after school, people don't recognize or realize how many there are. And I know I've come before this board and said, mark my words, somebody's gotta get hit. We gotta get that sidewalk in. Well, I realize now's the time, and I realize I have an association with one of the parties. I do want you to recognize, though, sitting on council and the administration, that a lot of these hard feelings and issues could have been avoided, and a lot of the strong arming could have been avoided had there been a sit-down talk. Not just a phone call to the administration. And Bill, I agree with you on this one. A sit-down talk and around the table to work things out. And I don't think that that was done. That's causing hard feelings and has gotten to the point of eminent domain in a month's time and putting the impetus on this situation being their fault because a kid's going to get hit going up there. No, it's been 8, 6, 7 years since this grant came through, and even a month ago after that last council meeting, had there been a come to Jesus talk around the table with the right parties, I think it could have been worked out. But just my thought. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baldwin.
For the record, Matt, been in my office, he and I talked about the whole situation for the last 8 months. So he was well informed. I've been telling him of the SD1 programs since that point. I've been telling him of the private line issue since that point. So he at least did have a sit-down conversation with myself. So. And
it
the information was
there were more
provided.
people that could have been involved.
Well,
Maybe a right
No, it
conclusion.
was what it was. The information was given to him of what the programs were. The information was given to him that it was a private line. He just didn't like what he was hearing. So there's nothing I or anybody could have done to change the facts. So that's why more people weren't brought in.
And I will say, he reached out to me late last week for a meeting. I unfortunately had a family funeral I had to attend to. I do appreciate him reaching out. It's just, I was unavailable. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Kathy Gordon, 314 Fourth. I had no intention of having any conversation this evening about eminent domain, but since it's been brought up, not regarding this specific situation, but I think one of the apprehensions or concerns about the development or any other situation that evolves, the process to go through eminent domain is one that is fearful to most of us that are homeowners, because it feels, the words feel like a steamroller before it's even been put in gear. I think there has been talk, those of us who are perhaps more geographically located to the development, there have been rumors for years about whether or not our neighborhood, in other words, north of the avenue, would be impacted by acquisition at some point to make the development that much more attractive and ultimately acquire our homes through eminent domain. Some homeowners have expressed a desire for that to happen, thinking that they're going to make off like bandits should a developer come in and want to buy property and take the property for a much larger project. From what I can tell in the comprehensive plan, there was no indication, and the county has no indication that there's any intent to take any of that property at any time in the foreseeable future, which is good news for those of us who happen to love our properties and might want to stay there. But I do think that the term, as well as the mechanism by which eminent domain is done, is intimidating, and it's frightening to homeowners because it's a loss of control over what they have paid for, and continue to pay for. Not just in taxes, but in the property itself. So even though I am not part of any part of this process, I just would like to suggest that be very mindful of the implication as well as what the definition of eminent domain is under Kentucky law and how frightening it can be to any homeowner, when it's exercised. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sleds?
My name's Matt Lenz. I live at 1009 Lincoln Road, and I own one of the houses on Dayton Pike. The last meeting I went to, I think they asked me to get an estimate to repair the pipe, and I didn't know if the city did their due diligence and figured out what it would cost to replace that pipe. Did that happen?
Yes.
Okay. I did my part. What I did, I talked to the CME Pipeline. What they do is they look to see whether or not they can repair the pipe and identify the problem, maybe line the pipe. I don't know if the city's ever talked to Sanitation District 1 to figure out what the issue was. I know they keep on saying it's a private pipe. And when CME was there last Thursday, they said, you know, they looked at the pipe. It's like a 36-inch concrete pipe. And all the catchwater basins from the city are dumping into this private pipe. Did you look into that, or did you see what's feeding it?
Yeah, I mean, it's feeding from above the hill as well. There's a lot of stormwater coming in to that area.
So it's a private pipe that's catching all the community's city water.
And all the
Is
way,
that right?
and all the way up Dayton Pike as well.
Okay.
Even beyond, yeah.
And somehow or another, it's my responsibility to repair a pipe that's taking all the water off the top of the hill.
You're looking at the guy, I don't make the rules, it's just what it is, there's no problem.
I mean, I'm just
It's up to
asking
me.
a question, all right?
It's up to me, I'd make it public, it's not up to me.
Did you get an estimate?
They're gonna be back tomorrow. They had a special track camera, I think it's gonna go through there and check it out. But anyway, there are a lot of city water catch basins that are connected to that private pipe that's flooding those three houses up there. So, I had every intentions of signing off on the sidewalk project. I just wanted to see whether or not the city would address the stormwater issues that need to be addressed first before you put that sidewalk in there. It's just kind of common sense, as Mr. Burns said. I didn't know how long the city's been working on the sidewalk project. I guess Kathy had mentioned maybe it had been several years. And I wouldn't want to be the person that holds up a sidewalk, but I think the right thing to do would be to address the issue of the stormwater up on the hill. I mean, obviously, it's a big problem. So I don't know if I was wasting my time to get an estimate on that and this foregone conclusion that they're going to go with the sidewalk, but just wanted to ask that question. And I'd also requested to have a meeting with the mayor. Hopefully, if you have time one day this week, I would like to meet with you and speak to you. If you're allowed to do that, and I don't know if the city manager or maybe the city attorney needs to be present. I mean, if you need to invite me, we can do that too.
We can do it again. Like I apologize, last week was a little crazy.
Well, I understand. I mean, deaths happen. I mean, we all have to deal with that stuff. But that's all I have. But like I said, I mean, it's just kind of hard to believe that you know, it's a private pipe. You know, a 36-inch concrete pipe would be my issue or my problem. Mr. Redleaf's issue, his house gets flooded 3-4 feet of water. It's just hard to believe that you can sit there and think it's a private pipe, and there's no way.
Well, we worked with SE1, where we figured out some numbers as far as what it takes to divert that water off, correct, Michael?
Yeah, council should have a copy
Yeah,
emailed to them, and everybody has a copy of the price breakdown.
And so we have a price breakdown, what it would take to actually remove from that pipe and move it out towards the pike. And we're willing to discuss other options with you as well. So there's nothing off the table as far as sidewalk versus no sidewalk. That's a completely different conversation.
And I think that myself and Mr. Redleaf, you know, we're for the community.
Of course.
We've lived in the community our whole lives, and it's just one of those things where I think, you know, if the sidewalk's going to be put off another week or two, I think, you know, there's a pretty good chance that maybe we sign off on this, maybe we can prevent eminent domain. But eminent domain doesn't cost me anything. You just give the city attorney some money and they'll fight it in court, and so be it. So just letting you know, I mean, the issue still remains up here on the hill.
If I could, I mean, we have to, Mr. Woods, we have to be real careful. I mean, I was gonna stop by the other night. We have to be real careful here. We've had other property owners that have come to the city with stormwater runoff off of private property onto their private property. Whatever we do, in your case or any other case, could set a precedent. And that's a long pipe going up there. And we could really, I mean, we could set a precedent that could bankrupt the city. That's why we're being so careful on this. And I really believe, well, I know that it's two separate issues. The sidewalk issue is separate from the water issue. Even if you were to get that water issue, that pipe cleared out completely or repaired, I'll guarantee on another 100-year rain that we have every couple of months, it's still going to come over that curb and fill up your yard because of the swale in your yard. And the same way with Mr. Redleaf's property, where the next property down from you has the driveway built up, it's naturally going to pond there. If we do the sidewalk, give us that chance to do that sidewalk and eliminate that issue, and maybe it will cure. And nobody will have to spend any money to fix that pipe. I've been up there in the rainstorms. It comes down the driveways across Dayton Avenue, goes right over that splimpy asphalt curb, and right into your property. And very little, as I said, I had sat with the topo map, and there's about 40 acres that drain into that pipe. On the other side of Chateau Drive, it's less than 6/10 of an acre that's actually city street there coming down from Chateau Drive. City property is not causing the problem, but a very small percentage of it. Most of it is private property, and if we take any steps like that on a private line, we're opening the city and every taxpayer up for paying for it from now on. I ask you, please, just let us do the sidewalk and see if that cures it.
The catchwater basins, there's 3 of them up here.
Right.
That's a lot of water.
That's all, and it only drains off of Chateau Drive.
Yeah, there's a lot of water there, and that's what's flooding the area. There's a lot of water there, so. The other piece I was gonna ask about, you know, we all get our sanitation bills, and SD1 charges everybody stormwater removal. And hell, give me $5 a month from every resident in Dayton. I mean, that adds up to a lot of money. What's being done with that money? And as a city, you should be talking to SD1 and saying, hey, what can you do for us with the stormwater removal that you're charging all of our citizens? I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, $5 isn't gonna break the bank for me, but give me $5 from every house in Dayton, that's a lot of money. So, I mean, does anyone approach SD1 to say, hey, what's gonna be done? You're collecting our stormwater removal money. What are you gonna do for us?
So last year, Mr. Lenz, we created a task force within City Council and City Administration that we're speaking with SD1, we're speaking with civic engineers to see that Dayton is getting something for our money, because we've been arguing that, and I think we led the charge on this as far as river cities go. We don't feel like we're getting our money back, and we feel that our money's going south of the county, and it's going into Boone County, it's going into Kent County, and we're not getting our dollars back. So we've been petitioning SD1 on what can you do for us now? Because we've been paying those bills for 30, 40 years, ever since SD1 was created. And we have different infrastructure than they do in the newer parts of southern Cable County and in Boone County, the Amazon or whatever. We should get some back. So we are fighting that, and we are meeting with SD1 officials on a regular basis, and bringing with us not just ourselves and us raising our fists, but we're taking engineers with us to say that, hey, Dayton needs some help too. So we are fighting for that, and I do not blame you for asking for $5.
Well, you know, and the other part of that, I believe Cold Springs, removed themselves from SD1, I believe.
Yeah.
And I understand the city of Covington is doing that as well, because, you know, everyone's paying all this money and they're not getting anything in return.
Yeah.
So as representatives of the city, you should be working for the citizens of Dayton to find out what SD1's gonna do for us as far as stormwater removal. I mean, it's easy to sit back and, you know, hey, it's private pipe, it's my problem, it's Mr. Redleaf's problem. It's, everyone's being charged for this, and we're not getting anything in return.
I don't think we're sitting back on that. Again, in the last year, we've only been at it for a year. We've been arguing with SD1 saying, hey, we've been paying the bill for so many years. We have old clay pipes that have been there for however many years that are deteriorating, and we're not being taken care of, even though you're supposed to be taking care of us. However, you're doing fresh dig builds down in southern Campbell County for shovel-ready projects. You're not taking care of us who've been paying the bills all these years. So I appreciate your concern that we should be going against or having the conversation with SD1, and we are having that conversation.
And the sidewalk helps. I mean, that's a bonus that we had a grant that actually is a viable solution, because it's not about eliminating stormwater. Stormwater's gonna get here. It's gonna come from here, it's gonna get here. It's about how do we channel it. And the sidewalk is a great example of how we get control of channeling some of that water.
I agree, the sidewalk's gonna help, but it's not gonna fix the issue. When you got catchwater basins that's, you know, that's flooding the whole property, it's because of all the water coming off the hill. So it's a small piece of it, and it could help. But I would look forward to meeting with you one day next week, and I think Mr. Redleaf would like to meet with you as well. And
of course,
it'll be a cordial meeting, and if you want to invite your two buddies there, you can do that as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lynn.
Council, Carl Redleaf, I live on 196 Dayton Pike. I'm not opposed to the sidewalk either, but my problem is all the water that I get, who's gonna pay for that sidewalk when it washes it out?
I think the eminent domain, wouldn't it be the city's property then? The sidewalk?
I don't know. I mean, I need something in writing saying I'm not gonna be responsible for it when it goes away, because I'm not fixing it.
I'll go with my buddy attorney.
No, all we're doing is getting an easement for the maintenance and the construction of it. Now, at a future date, you know, city council may decide when it's time to repair, either to repair or not repair. But it's not dictated to this council one way or another, regardless of whether they use an eminent domain process, whether they get the rights.
So you're telling me I'm responsible for it when it falls apart?
Yeah.
No, you're not getting my property.
The floor is is open for anybody else who would like to address council. Anybody? The audience portion is now closed. Move along to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Move along to new business.
So, Mayor, with your permission, I think
Yes, sir.
I'd like to reopen the floor. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to make comments, suggestions, anything related to the comprehensive plan that they've reviewed, they can have an opportunity to direct that to the city council, and then after a public session, we can entertain any additional comments and suggestions from the city council.
Michael, are you trying to conduct a public hearing out of this?
I just was going to try to give an opportunity for anybody that had read the document online, if they wanted to.
Provide some feedback,
Yes.
but you're not calling this any type of public hearing
No.
or satiating that requirement at this time? Okay. Just want to make sure we're clear with this.
So what is the next step with the comprehensive plan as far as timeline?
So I've
Because
got,
it says 2018.
well, yeah, we'll update the draft. If there's no comment from the public, I have two pieces of information, one submitted by Councilman Neary that you all have a copy of. I'll review that with the ad district, and we'll work some of that into a draft, and then I'll send out for final review. There was, I got an email from Chairman Cadle. He had a couple things that he saw that we missed from our discussion of planning and zoning, so we'll tie that in as well. I'll send out a final draft in the coming weeks, and then we can take official first reading in March. So tonight would be the last opportunity for the public and the city council to make comment before second reading, first and second reading.
So then my input here is a matter of public record, I'm sure, I presume?
Yeah, I was going to spare everybody me reading.
We don't want to start.
The council has a copy of it, and we'll make it a matter of record as being submitted, and I'll tie in those changes to the draft, those suggestions.
Does anybody else from council, I mean, if you've had a chance to read Mr. Neary's lengthy email, does anybody else have any questions or comments concerning the comprehensive plan?
I just want to say that the planning and zoning group and the committee did a good job. I think there's a lot in here. I've done 1,000 of these over the years at the bank, and I know how time-consuming they are and difficult.
Yeah, they did a wonderful job. They're very thorough. They spent a lot of late hours in this room and other rooms, so we appreciate their work on that. Thanks for your comments. Any other comments concerning the comprehensive plan from the city council?
No.
Mr. Neary, other than the ones that you've described in this email?
I think I've covered pretty much every topic on there, so.
Okay, well, good. You have some good points, man. Would anybody from the audience like to address the city council concerning the comprehensive plan? Nobody?
I would like to note that in the comprehensive plan, there is extensive coverage of stormwater management in the land use.
Yes. It's, as I mentioned earlier to Mr. Lenz, it's been a major portion of what we've talked about this year and last year as administration. So it's obviously moving forward with that concern. This is your last chance to talk about something that's going to guide our city for the next years. Yes?
Didn't Tom Edge just say that there was going to be a public hearing about the comprehensive plan, and this does not count as that?
No, I was asking him to clarify that this was not a public
It's just
hearing
comments.
advertised.
Okay. So there will be an opportunity at a later date to make comments
You
from the
can
public.
have the meetings whenever they have the readings.
Okay, so maybe I was wrong about that.
Okay.
And this would be your last opportunity if you want any sort of consideration, thoughts, comments into the draft. Any other comments will come in a first or second reading and may not make it into the final draft.
Okay, was that published anywhere on the website or on? that this night was the last night that the public could make comments.
I don't know the exact wording, but it was noted that the public could make comments. I don't know how it was worded, if it was the last.
Can you give us like a overview of kind of what is happening, just?
So the comprehensive plan is a document that kind of sets forth a vision for the community for the next 5 years, and it focuses on several different categories: land use, transportation, so on and so forth. And we've gone through, it's been a lengthy process. We put together a community of staff, elected officials, citizens, school members.
Several surveys.
We did surveys, we held public hearings for comments, and they could come in and vote on which initiatives they felt the strongest about. The Northern Kentucky Area Development District took that information and put it together into a draft. The Planning and Zoning Board met twice in November and December to review the document and make their comments, and that's kind of what led us to this point. But it's essentially a document that sets forth the community's vision for the next 5 years.
Does this have anything to do with the new city building?
So the comprehensive plan is more of a broad sense talking about facilities, so it does get mentioned, but it's not super specific on location or anything of that nature. It just mentions what public facilities are needed, not just with administration, but police, public works, fire.
Well, I didn't look on the web, so but I did not have, I wasn't aware, because I didn't look on the web, I guess, that there was a chance for us to put input into this, so.
It's just a guideline.
It's not
binding.
It's not binding.
Well, I think as Mr. Cato pointed out, it's a plan, but it's not a, what were the words you said?
It's not action.
It's not an action plan, it's just a plan.
Thought, right.
Correct. It's a good plan. Any other comments concerning the comprehensive plan? Okay, we'll go ahead and close that. Is there any reason for executive session this evening?
No, Mayor.
There is no reason for executive session. Do we have a, what's that? Oh, please, go ahead. I apologize.
That's okay. I just want to let everybody know that I'm working on a grant for the Civic Club through ArtsWave Catalyze Impact Grant, up to $10,000. If we get that grant, we will again hold a kite festival. If we don't, it's pretty expensive to have this festival, so it'll depend on whether we get this grant or not. Got it once, might get it again.
Anything we can do to help you? Well, thank you very much for your work behind that.
Yeah, I got Bob, Mr. Yoder helping me, so he'll review it and tweak it and all that kind of stuff. So.
Awesome. It's a fun event, and it's good for us, so appreciate that.
And then I have one other thing I want to ask about. I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks. The Dayton Community News.
Yes, ma'am.
I know Mike, Mr. Lenz works hard on this, and sometimes he doesn't get enough to even fill his paper. And I know we pay a stipend to put information in there, and I think we need to utilize it more. I think we need to put more information in there. I think we need to put more stories, either what's going on in the city, just anything that communicates to the citizens. The other thing is it doesn't come in the door store anymore. It's only set out in the stores throughout the city.
Correct.
I barely see it unless I happen to look over at Hansman's or Hometown Heroes and people went up and take a peek at it. What would it cost for the city to start mailing this?
We looked into, actually, it's odd that you brought that up today, because Donna and I and Tiffany, we sat down and talked about this the other day, and we asked with Mr. Yoder that we would like to see more content coming out of all of us, myself included. So I know that I can write more than from each board, whether it's civic board, whether it's each department head saying, here's what's going on with police, here's what's going on with fire, here's public works.
Right.
And that, we should start to put something like that together to have that paper piece a little bit more deliverable. Bob, did we look into how much it would cost to deliver to each household?
No, it wasn't that. No, it's not, sorry.
No, yeah, it's not your fault. I mean, literally, this was like Wednesday we started talking about this.
And I didn't talk to Donna, this was just something that popped in my brain. And the reasoning is because it's kind of sad, because if if you're in Hansman's or you're in Hometown Hero or wherever else you see them at anymore, they're stacks this thick, and it's almost the end of the month, time for a new one to come out. Nobody's even taking them and reading them, and it's like,
That was great.
I mean, I know Mike puts his heart and soul into it, and I just don't feel like we're utilizing it well enough.
I mean, I know times have kind of somewhat changed. We seem to be more digitally fed these days. We did not put them in the door store anymore. Door store is also a different issue. So,
Right.
so pushing those towards each house, what's that cost? How much is a paper boy these days? I don't know. But it is something we've been talking about the last week or so in City Hall. And Donna has been flying that flag, leading that charge. So maybe we can have that discussion in a month if we've done a little bit of work.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, I agree with you.
All right. I'll start with Mike. I'll call Mike. Talk to him.
Yeah.
See what he knows.
Yeah, great.
I'll let you guys know. I'd like to see it happen. Okay.
Right, I think it's great. It's a great thing in our town.
Can I say one more thing about what I was saying before? I just checked the city webpage. Not everyone is on Facebook. Not everyone checks everything that they can. I know that you, Tammy, have a page that not everyone is allowed to see. Also, not everyone is on Facebook. So I think the most official, most straightforward way for the city to communicate is the website that we already have. And this comprehensive plan meeting and what you said about it tonight is not on the calendar.
You know, it's under the latest news.
Okay, but it's not on the calendar. If
Well, whatever
anyone,
comprehensive plan on the calendar.
okay,
This
this is a long, I've brought up the calendar a million times. But when you're gonna plan out your evening, or you're gonna plan out your month, and you wanna be involved in city activities, you wanna know what's going on in the town that we pay a lot of taxes for, we check the calendar. It's often blank. Tiffany, is that your name? Has read off all these boards tonight. Hardly any of these boards are represented on that calendar. True.
That's
We're
not,
gonna put that on the calendar. It wouldn't go on the calendar.
Well, then why wouldn't you have one source of information that's the official city website? It is not the Tammy page. It is not a Facebook page that many residents in Dayton are not on Facebook.
I don't think anybody's ever declared my page an official city page.
Okay, I don't either. And so,
your comments are understood. I'm not
okay,
gonna condone an argument between.
nope, I don't have an argument. I would
Understood.
like to point out that if you're not on Facebook, it's hard when you're looking at a monthly overview of what's going on in the city to find that information, especially when you have a calendar that is consistently not populated.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stein.
Thank you.
I'd also like to bring up that we're having another Dayton Community Garden Gathering at the Lodge on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. We're gonna start planting our seeds, getting early in for spring. Amanda and one other citizen spent all day the other day bleaching out all the pots and getting everything ready for another growing season. So please join us at the garden. You will get free food eventually, so it's worth the effort. And if you don't think you have a green thumb, Amanda has 10 of them, so she's got you covered. All you have to do is put in a little elbow work. It's a lot of fun. There's not a lot of people that participate in the garden, and I mean, it starts off with a big or decent size, and then it dwindles down to just the two of us. So we encourage you to spread the word that we have a garden with free food. Maybe that'll get them coming. So.
Thank you, Mr. Baser. Anybody else with any new business? Anybody? So I've already asked about executive session, which is not necessary for the evening. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Baser made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Cornell made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's been a good meeting.
I don't.